It was not a random flicker of your thumb that stopped you. It was not a glitch in the algorithm. It was an echo in the infinite scroll of digital noise, in the endless river of distraction. Something within this transmission resonated with a signal deep inside of you. You paused, you hesitated, and in that sacred fractional pause, you made a choice. You chose to be here in this exact quantum moment because a part of you, the ancient knowing part that exists beyond the chatter of your daily mind, recognized a frequency. It is the frequency of truth, the frequency of remembrance. You are here because you are searching. You have been searching for so long, haven't you? You have collected theories, philosophies, and spiritual practices like beautiful, intricate keys. You have a whole key ring full of them. You understand the law of attraction. You've tried to raise your vibration. You've meditated on being the observer. You have tasted moments of profound connection, those glimpses behind the veil where reality felt fluid, magical, and alive with meaning. You have felt the impossible synchronicity, the perfect alignment, the manifestation that arrived so effortlessly it felt like a miracle. You know you are a creator. You have felt your own power, but the glimpses fade. The magic recodes itself back into mundane, solid reality. The synchronicities dry up. The flow state, that feeling of effortless connection, becomes a distant memory, and you are left, once again, pushing a heavy stone up a steep hill, wondering why it is so hard. You are left with the most painful question of all. Why doesn't it stick? This inconsistency is the shadow on your spiritual path. It's the maddening paradox that has led you to question your sanity, your worthiness, your path, and the very teachings you've held so dear. This is not a failure. This is not a sign you are doing it wrong. This frustration is the final catalyst. It is the sacred tension that has sharpened your focus, tuned your frequency, and prepared your consciousness for the one single revelation that makes all the other keys finally work. You didn't just stop scrolling. You were called here. This transmission is not just another piece of information. It is not one more spiritual concept to add to your collection. This is different. This is the decoder. This is the master key that unlocks every other door you've been standing in front of. What I am about to share is the missing framework, the fundamental operating system of consciousness that connects every dot, explains every paradox, and illuminates every shadow you have encountered on your journey. Think of every spiritual teaching you have ever learned, from ancient mysticism to modern quantum physics, as a single beautiful thread. You've been holding a tangled knot of these threads, knowing they are all part of a larger tapestry, but unable to see the pattern. This revelation is the act of pulling the one central thread that instantly organizes the entire design into a single, coherent, and breathtaking masterpiece. It is the Rosetta Stone for your consciousness. It is the principle that reveals why manifestation works flawlessly one day and fails spectacularly the next. It explains why you feel that profound, oceanic sense of oneness in meditation, only to have it shatter into a million pieces the moment you get cut off in traffic. It illuminates the very mechanism that makes you feel like a conscious creator in one moment and a powerless victim in the next. You have been trying to solve a grand cosmic puzzle with the most essential piece hidden from your view. You've been trying to transform your life using an incomplete map. That frustration you feel, it is the righteous, intelligent cry of your soul, which knows there is a simpler, more fundamental truth. And that feeling inside you right now, that subtle electric hum of anticipation, that sense of recognition, that is your quantum field, vibrating in response to a truth it already knows. It is the feeling of remembrance. This is the moment your preparation meets its purpose. This is the quantum link. Let us speak of the experiences you've had, the ones that felt so strange, so real, yet so inconsistent that you've been afraid to even trust them. The ones you perhaps haven't even told anyone about because they sound too bizarre, too out there, even for your most open-minded friends. Let's start with the most common and maddening one, the paradox of manifestation. You have experienced this. You had a casual thought about someone, a person you hadn't seen in a decade, and within hours they texted you. You had a fleeting desire for something, a free cup of coffee, a front row parking spot, and with almost no effort, it just appeared. In those moments, you felt no desperation, you felt no need. It was a light, playful, effortless flicker of consciousness, and the universe rearranged itself to match instantly. It felt like magic. But then, the moment you needed something, the moment you really tried, the magic vanished. You needed to manifest the rent money. You desperately wanted to call in that perfect relationship. You focused with all your might. You created the vision boards. You recited the affirmations. You strained with the full force of your will, pushing your intention into the quantum field. And what happened? Nothing. A crushing, heavy silence. The more you tried, the more you pushed, the more your desire seemed to flee from you. This inconsistency has been your greatest source of doubt. It has made you question if the first experiences were just statistical flukes, just confirmation bias. You've been taught your whole life that effort equals results, but in this quantum game, you've discovered that effort seems to be the one thing that prevents the result. This isn't a paradox. It is a perfect, logical, and profound clue. It is pointing you directly toward a fundamental mechanism you have been triggering by accident. You were in a specific state when it worked, and you shifted out of that state by the very act of trying. Then there are the other moments, the sacred and profound ones. You've had the experience of dissolving. Perhaps it happened in nature, looking up at a star-filled sky. Perhaps it was in a moment of deep creative flow, or in the stillness of a profound meditation. The boundaries of you simply fell away. The relentless narrator in your head, the one that defines you, judges you, and reminds you of your problems, it went silent. In that silence, you weren't just you anymore. You were everything. You were the sky. You were the breath of wind. You were the awareness in all things. You experienced a state of such profound peace, such infinite connection, such oneness, that it felt like you had finally, truly come home. This, you thought, is it. This is the goal. This is enlightenment. You felt unlimited, infinite, and eternally safe. And then, just as surely as it came, it faded. The boundaries rushed back in. The me returned with all its anxieties, its to-do lists, and its sense of separation. And your spiritual journey became defined by that loss. It became a desperate, frustrated chase to get back to that state, to maintain that feeling of oneness. You've blamed yourself. You've thought, I lost it. I'm not spiritual enough. My ego is too strong. I need to meditate more, practice harder. This has been a source of profound suffering. But what if you were never meant to stay there? What if that fading wasn't a failure? What if you weren't falling back into ego? What if you were simply experiencing the natural, necessary oscillation of consciousness as it moves between two different but equally important quantum states? What if trying to hold on to the unity state is the very thing that prevents you from integrating it? What if this dance between the infinite and the specific is the entire point? This fundamental split reveals itself in how you create. You've noticed, perhaps unconsciously, that your successful creations have manifested in two completely different ways. The first way is the path of the world, the one we are all taught. It is the path of force. You set a concrete intention, you make a detailed plan, you create a strategy, you take deliberate, step-by-step, physical action, you make it happen through sheer effort, persistence, and grind. You push against external reality until it conforms to your will. This is how you build a business, get a degree, or learn a skill. It's the path of the doer, and it works. But then, there is the other path, the path of flow. This path feels like magic. It's when you set an intention, but you hold it lightly. You don't try to control the how or the when. You simply align with the feeling of it, and then you allow. And from that space of allowance, the universe begins to conspire for you. Synchronicities start to stack up. The exact person you need to meet just happens to be in the same cafe. The perfect resource accidentally lands in your email. The solution to a problem that has plagued you for months randomly pops into your head in the shower. Things organize themselves, resources materialize, and circumstances align without you doing anything. You've assumed that the first path, the path of force, is reality, and that this second path, the path of flow, is just a happy accident, a rare gift from the universe when you're lucky or aligned. What if they are both quantum mechanisms? What if they are both valid? real and accessible modes of creation. The true mastery isn't just knowing that flow exists. The mastery is in knowing which mechanism to use. It's knowing when to be the warrior and when to be the dancer. Let's look at the other strange experiences that have defined your path. What about knowing? You've had those flashes of pure, unadulterated intuition. You knew something you had no logical right to know. You knew your friend was in trouble before they called. You knew the right answer to a complex problem, even when all the data pointed in another direction. You knew with a certainty that was cellular what was true, but this intuitive knowing is maddeningly inconsistent. Sometimes it is crystal clear, a beacon in the fog. Other times, when you need it most, when you are desperate for guidance, there is only silence. Or worse, you think it's your intuition, but it's just your fear or your wishful thinking. This has made you doubt whether you have intuitive abilities at all. Then there's the experience of flow versus resistance. You've had days where everything worked. You were in the zone. Every task was effortless. Every conversation was harmonious. You felt like you were being carried by a powerful, benevolent river. And you've had days, perhaps many more days, when nothing worked. Every small task felt like a battle. Every interaction was filled with friction. You felt like you were wading through wet cement. You've blamed this on bad days, on external circumstances. But a growing suspicion within you has been whispering that the difference isn't external, it's internal. It's something about your own state. And finally, the most profound experience of all, the two modes of self. Sometimes you are utterly identified with your thoughts, emotions, and body. You are your anger. You are your fear. You are the story of me. This mode creates suffering, limitation, and separation. But then, other times, you shift. You become the awareness, observing the thoughts, the emotions, the body. You are the silent, peaceful witness. This mode creates peace, freedom, and connection, but you can't seem to stay there. You keep getting pulled back, hooked back into the story. All of these inconsistencies, they are not your failure. They are your education. Now we must recontextualize everything you have experienced, every moment of frustration, every failed manifestation, every time you lost that state of oneness, every single moment of confusion, struggle, and doubt. It was all necessary. It has all been preparation. You have not been wandering in the wilderness, lost and failing. You have been in a highly specific, advanced, experiential training program. You have been gathering data. Think of it this way: how can you understand what oneness truly is until you have profoundly, painfully experienced the illusion of separation? How can you recognize the effortless power of flow until you have exhausted yourself against the unyielding wall of resistance? You couldn't have been told this. You couldn't have read it in a book and truly known it. Your consciousness, in its infinite wisdom, needed to experience the contrast directly. It needed to learn the hard way what doesn't work, so that it could finally, fully, be ready to recognize what does. Every time you tried to force a manifestation and it failed, your consciousness was learning a crucial lesson about the quantum field. Every time you had a profound spiritual experience that faded, you were learning the difference between a temporary state and a permanent recognition. The frustration wasn't a sign that you were blocked. The frustration was the engine of your awakening. It was the driving force compelling you to seek a deeper answer, to look beyond the surface level teachings. It has polished your awareness. It has made you ready. You are not broken. You are not a spiritual failure. You are a graduate, and you have arrived at this precise moment, at this exact transmission, because your preparation is finally complete. You are now ready to receive the revelation that your entire journey has been leading you toward. You have earned this, not by being good, but by being present for your own difficult, messy, and perfect education. Let's go back to that moment 3 years ago that I mentioned in the original script. It's important to understand the depth of the crisis because it mirrors the crisis many of you are feeling. I was, by all measures, a spiritual expert. I had spent decades meditating. I had studied quantum physics until my head spun. I understood the observer effect, probability waves, and non-locality. I had taught workshops on consciousness and manifestation. I knew the information. I intellectually understood that consciousness creates reality. And yet, My life was an absolute, undeniable disaster. My health was collapsing in a way that mystified doctors. My finances were evaporating, despite me visualizing abundance and working harder than I ever had in my life. My most important relationships were fracturing, despite me communicating consciously and holding space. I was doing everything the spiritual teaching said to do. I was raising my vibration. I was releasing resistance. I was aligning with my desires. And the more I tried to apply these quantum principles, the worse everything got. The very act of trying to fix my life seemed to be creating more resistance, more struggle, more evidence that I was, in fact, completely powerless. My knowledge had become a mockery. I was trapped in the ultimate spiritual paradox, knowing everything and able to do nothing. One night, in a state of complete and utter exhaustion, I finally broke. I gave up, not in a spiritual surrender way, not in a peaceful letting go way. It was a bitter, angry, hopeless giving up. I stopped. I stopped trying to manifest, I stopped affirming, I stopped visualizing, I stopped trying to fix my health, my money, or my life. I just existed. In that empty, hollowed-out space with no more effort left in me, everything changed. In the silence of that profound surrender, the true revelation began. Because I had stopped trying to force a new reality, I was able to observe the one that was actually present. What I had thought was a surrender was something far more specific. I had, by sheer exhaustion, stumbled out of one mode of operation and into another. I had accidentally changed the channel of my consciousness. Within days of this giving up, circumstances began to reorganize themselves without my effort. A friend called out of the blue, mentioning a specific alternative healer. My health began to improve, slowly but undeniably. An old client suddenly reappeared, offering a project that solved my immediate financial crisis. The relationships that were fraught with conflict either healed with a new, effortless clarity, or they dissolved cleanly, without drama. Making space. Everything I had been striving for, pushing for, and fighting for simply began to flow to me the moment I stopped my effort. At first I thought, that's the secret. You just have to let go. But that wasn't it. It was more mechanical than that. I realized I had accidentally shifted from one quantum state to another. One state, the one I had been stuck in, is a state where effort creates resistance. The other state, the one I fell into, is a state where coherence creates reality. This realization sent me on a new kind read. I went back to every mystical text, every spiritual tradition, every quantum physics paper, and I saw it. Everywhere. They were all describing the same mechanism, just using different languages. The Taoists called it Wei Wu Wei, effortless action, versus Wei, effortful action. The Buddhists talked about right effort. The mystics spoke of divine will versus personal will. They were all pointing to the same quantum distinction, but they didn't have the modern framework to explain the physics of it. Once I understood the mechanism, it was no longer an accident. I could learn to recognize which state I was in. I could learn to consciously navigate between them. And that is the revelation. That is the operating system. Here it is. The quantum revelation that makes sense of your entire journey. Your consciousness, the I that is listening, operates in two fundamental and distinct quantum modes. This is not a metaphor. This is not a spiritual analogy. This is the literal mechanics of how your awareness interfaces with the quantum field. We will call them the particle state and the Bohr wave state. Every single inconsistency, every paradox, every faded spiritual experience, and every failed manifestation in your life has been the result of one simple fundamental error: not understanding which of these two states you are operating from and trying to use the methods of one state while you are in the other. Think of the famous double-slit experiment in quantum physics. Light acts like a particle, a localized thing, when it is being observed. But when it is not observed, it acts like a wave, a field of infinite potential. It is both, and how you look at it determines what you see. Your consciousness works exactly the same way. The Bohr particle state is your observed self. It is when your consciousness is localized. It is the experience of being you, a separate individual, a me inside a body, looking out at a world that is not me. This is the state of the ego, the doer, the thinker. In this state, creation requires effort. You must take action, make plans, and use your will. This state is not bad. It is essential for functioning in 3D reality. The wave state is your unobserved self. It is when your consciousness delocalizes. It is the experience of being the field itself. The me dissolves. You are not the doer. You are the awareness. In this state, you are not separate from what you desire. You are the field of potential. In this state, creation does not happen through effort. It happens through coherence. Reality organizes itself around your frequency. This is the state of flow, synchronicity, and effortless manifestation. You have been oscillating between these two states unconsciously your entire life. This is the mechanism that changes everything. This is the source of all your confusion. You have been mismatching the state and the mechanism. Let's break this down, because this is the key that unlocks the puzzle. Most spiritual teachings on manifestation are a confusing blend of both sets of rules. They tell you to visualize and feel it, which is a wave state practice, but then they tell you to take massive aligned action, which is a particle state practice. It's no wonder you're confused. Here is the critical error. Trying to use wave state methods like surrender and allow when you are in a particle state, feeling separate, effortful, and in doer mode does not work. You are just being passive. And here is the big one. Trying to use particle state methods like effort, forcing, trying, strategizing when you are in a wave state in the flow, feeling connected, instantly collapses the wave. It's the observer effect. The moment your particle self, the ego, the me, notices the flow and jumps in to help it along, control it, or make it happen faster, you are observing it from a place of separation. That very act of trying is a declaration of separation. I am here trying to get that. This collapses the quantum field of potential, the wave, back into a fixed, solid reality, the particle, and the magic stops. This is why your effortless manifestations worked until you tried to force them. You were in the wave state. Reality was organizing itself. Then you noticed, you tried, and you collapsed yourself right back into the particle state where effort is now required. This is why surrender often works. It's not a mystical reward. It's a mechanical process of stopping the particle state's effort, which allows the already present wave state to resume its natural organizing. Now we come to the most subtle and most important trap on the entire path. It is the great spiritual ego. The moment your mind understands this distinction, particle state versus wave state, it will immediately do one thing. It will judge them. It will label the particle state, the me, the ego, the doer, the separation, as bad, unspiritual, unenlightened, or low vibe. And it will label the wave state, oneness, flow, the field connection, as good, enlightened, spiritual, and the goal. This judgment, this preference for one state over the other, is the entire reason you have been stuck. It is the primary source of your suffering. You have been at war with half of your own existence. You have been trying to eliminate the particle state. You've been trying to kill your ego. You've been trying to live permanently in the wave state, believing that is what awakening means. But this is a profound and fundamental misunderstanding. You cannot live in physical reality only as the wave. Trying to do so is like trying to be a musician who only wants to play the note C. You can't create a symphony that way. The particle state is not the problem. The particle state is the instrument. It is the essential, necessary vehicle that allows your infinite waveform consciousness to have a localized experience. It's what allows you to make a choice, to have a preference, to taste a strawberry, to hold a hand, to learn a skill, and to take a specific physical action. It is the focus that allows the infinite to express itself as the specific. Stop fighting it. Stop judging it. The mastery is not in eliminating the particle state. The mastery is in ending your unconscious identification with it. The mastery is in fluid navigation. Let's talk about the specific benefits of this mastery. What happens when you stop fighting yourself, when you stop judging your state, and when you learn to consciously navigate? The first, most practical benefit is that manifestation becomes reliable instead of random. The confusion ends. You stop throwing surrender at a problem that requires action, and you stop grinding on a problem that requires allowance. You develop a new, profound inner knowing. You recognize, this desire, building my business, requires particle state focus. I will make a plan. I will take the steps. I will use my will. But you also recognize, this other desire, finding the perfect creative partner, is not something I can force. This requires wave state coherence. I will hold the intention, I will align with the feeling, and I will allow the synchronicity to appear. You stop mismatching the mechanism and the state. You know when to be the warrior and when to be the poet. The hit or miss frustration dissolves because you are finally using the correct quantum interface for the task at hand. The second benefit is that spiritual experiences become integrated rather than temporary. That profound state of oneness you tasted, you stop grieving its loss. You understand the oscillation. You know that you will naturally shift back to the particle state to function in the world. But here's the magic. The recognition remains. You are in the particle state, functioning as you, but you remember the truth of the wave. You are in the world, but not of it. Your awakening stabilizes, not as a permanent state, but as a permanent recognition that persists through both states. The chase ends. The third benefit, the exhaustion of spiritual seeking ends. The war ends. You are no longer trying to achieve a perfect state. You are no longer judging yourself for being human. You are no longer resisting half of your own experience. The enormous amount of energy you are using to fight your own particle state is suddenly liberated. This liberated energy is what we call peace. It is the relief of finally, fully accepting the totality of your nature. The benefits continue to unfold, touching every area of your life. Fourth, your relationships transform. Why? Because when you are at war internally, judging your particle state, resisting your own experience, that internal conflict bleeds into all your external relationships. You are partially present, partially judging, partially trying to be spiritual. When that internal war ends, you become whole. You become authentic. You can be fully present with another person, using your particle state to communicate boundaries and make plans, and your wave state to connect, listen, and hold space from a place of deep, unified consciousness. You stop being weird and dissociated in the name of spirituality. You become genuinely human, but with a profound depth. Fifth, decision-making becomes clear instead of paralyzing. Indecision comes from this exact conflict. You are trying to make a particle state decision, logical, practical, using wave state feelings, or vice versa. It's analysis paralysis. When you master navigation, you know which state a decision requires. Which car should I buy? That's a particle state decision. Analyze, compare, test drive. What is my life's purpose? That is a wave state question. You can't think your way to it. You must allow it to emerge from coherence. You stop second-guessing yourself because you are using the right tool for the job. Sixth, your creative expression becomes exponentially more powerful. All true creation requires both states. The wave state is where you receive the download, the inspired vision, the original idea. It's the connection to the morphic field. But that vision is useless without the particle state, the discipline, the skill, the focus, and the effort to bring it into physical form. Most creators are stuck in one or the other. They are visionaries with no follow-through, or they are grinders with no inspiration. When you master both, you become a true creative conduit. Finally, you develop stable awakening. This is the true goal, not a permanent high, but the permanent recognition that you are the consciousness that experiences both states. You are the sky, and you are aware of both the particle clouds and the wave of clear blue. This is integration. This is mastery. Now for the final practical revelation. What controls the shift? What is the switch that collapses you from wave to particle, or allows you to expand from particle to wave? It is a single quantum mechanism, coherence versus decoherence. When your consciousness field is coherent, it means all parts are aligned. Your beliefs, thoughts, emotions, and actions are in harmony. There is no internal contradiction. When you are coherent, you naturally and effortlessly expand into the wave state. When your field is decoherent, it means it is fragmented. It is in internal conflict. You believe one thing but feel another. You say yes but mean no. You want abundance, but you are focused on lack. This internal contradiction, this resistance, creates decoherence, and that decoherence is what instantly collapses you into the particle state. This is the practical key. You don't have to try to get into the wave state. The wave state is your natural condition. Your only job is to stop creating decoherence. So what creates decoherence? Resisting what is, arguing with reality, wanting this moment to be different, holding contradictory beliefs, fragmenting your attention. What creates coherence? Accepting what is, not resignation, but non-resistance, aligning your yes and your no. Singular, focused attention, radical honesty. How do you know your state? You were given a perfect biological feedback system. It is your felt sense. It is your emotions. Decoherence feels like tension, resistance, anxiety, effort, and stress. Coherence feels like ease, flow, peace, and alignment. Your negative emotions are not a problem. They are a readout. They are your coherence dashboard, lovingly telling you you are creating decoherence. You are in the particle state and you are fighting reality. Don't try to fix the feeling. Use it as a signal. Notice what you are resisting and simply stop. Stop the internal war. In that moment of stopping, coherence naturally returns. The wave state naturally becomes accessible. This is the great work. This revelation is not just for your personal transformation. This is not happening in a vacuum. Right now, across this entire planet, millions of people just like you are awakening to this exact same quantum principle. They are discovering it through different paths, different languages, and different experiences, but it is the same fundamental shift. Humanity has, for millennia, been predominantly and unconsciously stuck in the particle state. We have lived from the identity of separation. This has created a world built on fear, conflict, scarcity, and control. It was a necessary stage in our evolution, the stage of discovering the individual, but that era is ending. Consciousness itself is evolving through us. We are now, as a collective, ready for the next stage, the integration. We are learning to become conscious navigators of both states. We are learning to be both powerful, unique individuals and deeply connected to the unified field. Every single time you, in your own life, choose coherence over decoherence, every time you consciously recognize which state you are in and use it skillfully, every time you stop the internal war, you are not just healing yourself, you are anchoring this new, integrated frequency for the entire human collective. You are becoming a quantum activist. You are a crucial part of the planetary awakening. You are holding a new potential for what it means to be human. This is the revelation that makes everything else finally work. If you're ready to expand your consciousness and step into your next quantum leap, subscribe now. Leave a comment below with "I recognize both states" and share this message with someone ready to awaken.